The reason why a lot of entrepreneurs are disabled people is that it is not very easy for disabled individuals to get jobs.
True story.
You will see this story again and again when you speak with people with disabilities who become business founders. And that is found throughout the stories in the book.
Wow, guys, can you believe it? We're already over 20 episodes into Nick Speaks, but here's the truth: I couldn't have done it alone. The amazing team at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions has been with me every step of the way, from those early strategy sessions all the way to editing, promotion, and even helping me land guests. They've made it so all I have to do is show up, record, and focus on delivering the message. Kyle at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions tailors everything to your unique needs and is so creative to give you what you're looking for. But one thing's for sure, he gives 110% to help you create an incredible podcast. So if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, now's the time. Hit the link in the show notes, set up a strategy session with Kyle, and get ready to take your podcast to the next level. Trust me, you won't regret it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special installment of Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. You guys, I believe all my episodes are special because I know what I'm trying to do. I know what my mission is, but today is extra special because we are making a huge announcement here on Nick Speaks for the very first time. And today I have a very special guest with me. She is heavily involved in the disabled community, has disabled relatives that are neurodivergent. We're going to get into that. But the reason she's so special is because she has made it possible for me to become a co-author, and the book launches today. Now we're taping this on Wednesday, but the podcast will be released on Tuesday. So right after this episode is over, I have to go to a book launch party. I'm so excited. So would you please help me welcome Kat Paz to the program? Hi, Kat.
We're doing it. I'm so excited. We have talked about this interview for so long, but what were the chances that we would be able to do the podcast interview on launch day, the big day itself?
That's that's totally incredible. And one of the reasons I love podcasting is all the people that I get to meet. And I met you through my podcast producer, Kyle. Shout out to Goodnight Podcasting Solutions, who produces all my podcasts every week and does a phenomenal job. But I met you through Kyle, and he called me one day. It was shortly right before Christmas, and he said, "Hey, when you get home," because he called me when I was out on the road. He said, "When you get home, I need you to jump on a Zoom call." And I said, "Okay." So I jumped on a Zoom call, and he said, "For your Christmas present this year, I got you a spot in a book." And I was so thrilled, uh, that it was for my Christmas present. Of course, I had to work over Christmas, but hey, you know, and this book is so phenomenal. So why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about you and how you're in the disabled space, and then we'll get into the book and why you decided to write it, because you're the main author and we have 12 authors all together. So I'm really excited. Let's jump into this.
Excellent. Nick, thank you so much. And I just need to commend you. Your public speaking skills are so on point. Every time I listen to you, I am blown away by how good you are. So let's begin. My name is Katrina Paz, aka Kat Paz, which some people have teased me about or have been really touched by it because it sounds like cat paws. I'm absolutely enthralled to be part of the disability support community because my only brother, my sibling Jerry, is neurodivergent. His official diagnosis is learning fragmented disability. But from a practical point of view, he operates between 9 to 12 years old, depending on the task at hand. Jerry's my only sibling. This life is all I have known. And the pains that come with having a disabled loved one is something that is very, very near and personal to me. So when the time came, I realized that if I was to look into helping the community, it would need to be serving the different kinds of disabilities out there. And that
Mm,
ultimately led me to the gathering of future authors into what became the book.
awesome. Awesome. Now, does he live with you?
Great question. My brother does not live with me. He lives with my parents who are getting older, and the time definitely has come for him to go to another spot, and that has already been set up.
Oh, great. So
So
he's
he
in like
wanted to live.
a group home situation. I'm just
Yeah.
guessing. You correct me.
Something really akin to that is what he transitioned to. Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Good. And so does he like it? Does he get along well?
he does. And he definitely adores the people who are running the home. So he is happy. And it took a lot of searching to find the situation, to find a group of people that he'd be comfortable living with. So it was not cut and dry. So for anyone out there who's listening, if you do have loved ones who are considering going into something like a group home setup or are considering looking for a group home, it definitely has to be the right fit for everyone. For
Yeah.
other folks, think of it as going into college and being able to choose your roommates. It
Yeah.
becomes part of your personal space. You are most vulnerable and should be mostly yourself when you are at home. So this is a very important piece of life.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I would say, most group home settings, most home healthcare agencies are going to sell you the moon when it comes because at the end of the day, they want your business. So they're going to tell you whatever they have to in a lot of cases. And I say a lot because not every place is like that, but in a lot of cases, they're going to tell you whatever they have to get your really the government's business, the waiver, whatever system your relative is on. So it's very important to ask questions and make sure that your relative is going to have whatever they need, whether it's consistent transportation or they're going to be able to go on vacation when they want to, or they're going to be able to have enough staff if someone has to call out sick, or they still going to be able to live the same quality of life. Because a lot of times, these home health agencies with the shortage, you have one or two really good staff, and then they work those one or two really good staff to death and they don't end up having enough staff. So it's very important to ask those type of questions. What was it like, Kat? And we're going to get into the book in just a second.
Sure.
What was it like growing up with Jerry? What were some of the struggles that you saw him go through that just really tugged on your heart and was like, I've got to do something to help the disabled community?
Nick, you're asking me to go into the memory banks that are a little bit on the painful side, but here's the absolute truth. I got to see my brother laughed at and ridiculed when I was growing up. He's younger than me, by the way, and I would get really, really angry
Yeah.
because he doesn't manifest as a disabled individual externally or physically right away.
Right.
So people would assume that he was not special needs, and they would assume that because of that, he would just be an object of ridicule.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of judgment passed from the time we were kids. But what I can say was one of the proudest achievements was when he graduated from high school and
Yeah.
being able to see that achievement. My parents consider Jerry graduating a much larger achievement than my graduating. And at the time, as a sibling, there was a little bit of pain behind that. But now that I'm older, I absolutely agree and understand where my parents came from because this is the truth as I see it. The world was created for people who do not have disabilities.
Exactly. Yes.
And for people with disabilities to move around and survive in this world is
Mhm.
already a testament to innovation, resilience, stubbornness, but also a lot of courage because whatever roadblocks have been thrown in the disability community's way, they somehow find a way around it, to work through it, to work around it, to work together. The things that we consider regular things are much more difficult sometimes for a person with a disability, and we don't remember that. So I have to say how it was growing up with Jerry. It was very enlightening, sometimes painful, sometimes anger inducing. But at the end, I got to really appreciate not only my brother, but the community as a whole.
Right. That's awesome. I want to ask you one more question, and then we're gonna get to the big reason why we're here, which
Yeah.
is the book. You said that it was a little bit more painful because your parents acknowledged in a bigger way your brother's high school graduation
Mhm.
with much more fanfare than they did yours.
That's true.
In that time while you were growing up, did you feel in any way at some point neglected because your brothers were focused on your parents were focused on your brother's disability?
Did I feel neglected? Perhaps less than a handful of times. I don't remember any specific moment wherein I felt Jerry gets special attention because he is a person with a disability. I'm sure that happened during my more immature years. I'm positive of that. I'll just share something with you, Nick, that doesn't directly relate to my brother, which is really what sticks out in memory apart from Jerry's graduation. There was a child that my parents knew of who was also a special needs graduate. And when he graduated from high school, my mom's bawled, cried, really, really gut-wrenching tears almost. And that hit me because I was already an adult at this time. And even though I was an adult, I zoomed back to my high school graduation where I was valedictorian. And we had just migrated over from the Philippines the year before. And she didn't cry that hard during my graduation. And at that point, even though I was already an adult, I was a little bit offended. And I brought it up to my mom and I asked, Mom, why did you cry for, we'll call him Bob. That's not his name. At Bob's graduation, but you didn't cry like that for me. And then she said, because it was much harder for him to graduate than it was for you. And I didn't understand that then. But now, with the years having passed, my God, I so understand it. Now that I've seen more and more the difficulties of navigating this world, the more I understand how much more of an accomplishment it was for Bob to graduate. It took years though, Nick. I'll be honest. I wonder what other siblings there feel in the world.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand and get that. Because it was definitely a big thing for me when I graduated. I don't remember my parents sobbing, but I remember a lot of people coming up to me and telling me how proud they were. And I was like, why? I didn't do anything different than the other high schoolers. And I just found out recently that even though I didn't get an actual high school diploma, that states have to look at a certificate of completion just as good as a high school diploma. If I would have known that 10 years ago, I probably maybe would have gotten employed, but who knows? Probably not. Because we have 22% of disabled people in this country. That's a statistic per the Department of Labor in 2023. 22% of people with disabilities in this country are gainfully employed. And that is a terrible number, which is a wonderful segue into our project. And I want you to tell me, yeah, hold up the book.
This, everyone, is the proof of the book. So it is not for resale. It was a copy sent to me, the physical soft cover copy, so that I could see if there were any editing errors. So it's not the perfect cover. So with that caveat, I will share the book cover with everyone. Now, it's a very long title. I've been told this again and again, but kudos to all of the graphic designers who worked on this. The book title is Trailblazing and Transforming Success Stories of Entrepreneurs with Disabilities.
I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. Now it's available on Kindle for digital download, but are people going to be able to get a physical copy if they want?
That is all true. People can get a physical copy via Amazon right now as well. And Nick is an author. You can actually order it wholesale so that you can sell them on your own as well. FYI.
Oh, okay. I'll have to talk to my producer and figure out how I can do all that and sell them wholesale and all that type of stuff.
You got
Uh,
it.
so talk to us about what made you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a book that has to deal with employment and the lack thereof when it comes to people with disabilities. And why did you choose 12 authors to begin with?
Excellent. There's so many good questions in there, Nick. I'll start with the why highlight disabled entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Let's tackle that question first. The reason is because I don't think mainstream US, dare I say it, the world realizes how many entrepreneurs are people with disabilities.
Mm,
I also don't think a lot of people realize why there are disabled entrepreneurs. So let's delve into that a little bit. The reason why a lot of entrepreneurs are disabled people is that it is not very easy for disabled individuals to get jobs.
true story.
You will see this story again and again when you speak with people with disabilities who become business founders. And that is found throughout the stories in the book. The reason for so many disabled entrepreneurs is doors are shut in faces. People with disabilities are told that they cannot do X, Y, or Z at a regular traditional job.
Mm,
And that forces individuals to forge their own way, to find their own path and
yeah.
establish their own businesses. Is it okay now to talk about the Y12? Because it wasn't intended to be 12.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
When I first started this, there were going to be 33 authors.
Really?
Yes, it was going to be called the 33. And it's so funny. I say that as it's 222 here. It was all going to be about the synchronicity. But at a certain point, I realized number one, this is going to be our first book. If we try to gather 33 people, that is a lot of work.
Yes.
So there came a time wherein we decided there would be one last author to come in. And Nick, you were the second to the last author to sign
Oh,
up. Not sure if you realize that. So
no.
your timelines were condensed given when you got to join us. And you You did such a spectacular job given those timelines. So I just wanted you to know it was going to be 33. Instead, we have 12 authors, but that doesn't stop us to keep on going and go eventually for a volume two of the book because we both know
Wow.
there are other people out there. There are other entrepreneurs out there.
Yes. Yeah. It was such a joy to do it. You know, people told me for years, Nick, you should write a book. You should write a book. And my pastor, I don't know how he's done it, but he's written over 200. And so when I look at people like him and other authors like Joyce Meyer, who I'm sure you're familiar with, well, maybe I shouldn't just do. She's a televangelist and an author, and she's written hundreds of books. And when I look at people like those folks, I'm like, 200 books, hundreds more by this other person. I'm glad I started off with a chapter. That's all I can say.
I agree, Nick, and I've learned so much through this process. I have definitely learned what it takes and entails to release or birth a book into the world because I'll just do a couple of highlights that I know we're going to specify at the launch party as well. Nick, almost everyone involved in this book was a person with a disability.
Wow.
So we'll just break it down super quickly here. The graphic here was made by Danielle Ongo out in Israel. She is visually impaired. The typography was done by Letitia Wexton, and she was born without arms.
Mhm.
So from that very onset, just the cover of the book is already a labor of love. The editors were all people with disabilities. We had 5 editors in total. The marketing was partially done within the community as well. This was a project started and fueled by the power of people with disabilities, specifically entrepreneurs.
My goodness. I didn't I mean I knew there were 12 authors, either with a disability or people that had people with disabilities, such as your brother Jerry.
Mhm.
So hear the backstory now is incredible because I didn't know all that. Now, why did you take employment or entrepreneurship as the focus of the book?
Absolutely. I didn't want to just collect stories of individuals with disabilities and how they were managing in the world, or I didn't want stories that would just be all about the heart. Not for the first one. I had another goal in the back of my mind from the onset, and it's something that might be a little bit controversial to some.
Mhm.
But my plan this whole time, Nick, was to prove the economic viability of businesses run by people with disabilities. Just like folks don't readily provide loans to people with disabilities, I wanted to be able to show the counterpoint to those same folks and show that there are very successful entrepreneurs who are working with their disabilities and they should be heard. They should be partnered with. We should collaborate with them. There is an untapped market. If I'm not mistaken, it's 13 trillion or 3 trillion. I will get back to you. We will fact check that before we release this number. But there is an innate value to the power of the disabled entrepreneur. I wanted to highlight that very specifically. Nick, I'll just put one last thing. People just say that when I say I work with people with disabilities, do you know where most people go with that?
Um, those with severe mental challenges.
Very close. It's a bias. Once I say that I work with people with disabilities, they presume that I've started a nonprofit. I'm working with the nonprofit. Are you doing it for charity?
Oh, okay. So you were going that direction. Okay.
That's where people tend to go when I just say, oh, it's a nonprofit. Oh, it's an org. It's like, no, there's an economic viability to businesses run by entrepreneurs who have disabilities.
And here's the thing. You've said this and it brought something up in my mind where when people find out that uh the people that are with me all the time are my caregivers,
Mhm.
the people automatically go, "Oh, bless your heart. You're doing such wonderful work." And as if, working with people with disabilities is such a drag or, you know, just the lowest job on the total pole that somebody can have. But what I am afraid a lot of people don't understand, it takes maybe 1 hour. Somebody could go from being perfectly fine, maybe less than an hour, to being permanently disabled.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, we're all going to end up needing somebody's help
Yeah,
before we go to the grave. And so
correct. That's
I
all.
don't understand the stigma, which is you work with people with disabilities. How great are you? No, we're just trying to live as normal life as possible. And these are the avenues that we have to do in order to do it. So, yeah.
I'll just respond to that really quickly. Throughout the editing of the chapters, I also realized even more greatly that people with disabilities are first people.
Yeah.
I'll let folks listening take that in just a tiny bit because people with disabilities are individual and unique. They will have preferences, they have skills, they have items they need to work on, just like any other person.
Yep.
So they are people first.
Yeah. One last question because I know you and I have got to go to a book party and I want to leave some time so we don't have to rush. Yeah. Um, but what story, and this is not a gotcha question, what story, you can pick one or two, what story from the book, or you can pick three if you want, I don't care. What story from the book really tugged at your heart?
You know what? I don't have a single one that grows. This is not a gotcha answer either. When I was reviewing the book, I came from it from the lens of knowing everyone's background.
Yeah,
It's so weird. I'm not trying to, what's the word? I'm not trying to cheat the answer here, but this
right.
is absolute truth.
Sure.
Everyone who was involved in this book is a friend of mine. It Since I knew their stories, I already had my heart tugged in so many different directions and in different ways. But
Yeah.
what I will do right now, though, is highlight what I really, really loved about your chapter, Nick.
Oh, thank you. I'm chapter 5, by the way.
Yes,
Those of
chapter 5, and let me share because I bookmarked it just for today. This is Nick. He looks so dapper, and that's what I put in your text underneath your picture, Nick.
yes. Yeah.
There
I'm
are so
better
much.
in that picture too.
I know, and that's what it was. For Nick's chapter, I really enjoyed the humor interspersed. You can definitely see the pain points. Nick has gone through a lot, and he does describe it in his chapter. But it is so interspersed with his speak out, speak proud, with a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor that I would crack up. There are certain lines in there that I'm not going to spoil for the audience, but I would just crack up. That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to say on that score.
Well, thank you. I try to. I try to bring humor in every situation, and it's to a fault of mine because sometimes I don't know when to shut it off because
Nick.
I'm just, you know, I've been through a lot of pain, and it's like if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And I've done too much crying and sometimes not enough laughter. So to try to balance those out are really, really tough.
May I read just one paragraph off your chapter? And it won't be a spoiler chapter,
Yeah,
paragraph in the chapter.
yeah, absolutely.
Here it goes. Who knows? Maybe I'll even take a detour into caregiving training. Call it Nick's way of care. Perhaps I'll find myself doing something I can't even imagine yet. All I know is that I was born to stand in the spotlight, to take charge, and to make people laugh. And yes, I'm already large, so why not be in charge too? Nick Comstock, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It's going to be a great book, and it is a great book, and I'm looking forward to having everybody read it. I'm looking forward to hearing I'm looking forward to getting the book, and maybe I'll give a little bit free copies away or something somehow for like a contest or something, but we'll have to figure that out. Uh, but I just want to thank you, Kat, for this opportunity. Um, this being an author was never in my wheelhouse, but now it is as of today and as of this week. And so I appreciate it and look forward to working with you on many other projects. What are some final words that you can give to the listeners? Because a lot of my listeners are disabled and struggle to make ends meet and struggle to make their goals happen. So, what are some final words of advice and encouragement that you have?
Got it. For your audience members who are people with disabilities, specifically looking for the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, my
Mhm.
message just to you are these. Number one is every person in the book. I'm just going to call out the book, but every success story with a disabled entrepreneur started very close to where you are right now.
Yeah.
And that's lacking support financially or physically or emotionally. My message for you is to find it within yourself to be able to move forward. That's the mental piece. For the financial piece, there are individuals out there who are willing to help. If you're trying to start something, if you are trying to survive, there are different ways in the community. I'm not being prescriptive here. I'm just saying that there are people who are still willing to give support to others.
Yes.
And then find friends who will be part of your group, of your circle, of your crew, whether that be in person or online. Because when you get a bunch of people with disabilities together, so much is possible. And the items achieved, the things achieved are compounded. It's almost exponentially true. So that is a very long way of saying keep on going, find the wealth within yourself, find the support outwardly as well, and then just don't lose hope. That's my final message.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say too before we go, and you're gonna get about 100,000 no's before you get a yes. But you gotta keep going until you get to that 100,001 that turns into a yes. Because once that yes happens,
Cascades.
then you break through and all those other yeses start to fall in line. So before we go, show the book one more time and tell
I will
everybody
show the book.
what the title is.
Excellent. I will tell everyone the title. Thank you for reminding me, Nick. Here is the book. It is called Trailblazing and Transforming Success Stories of Entrepreneurs with Disabilities. Try to say that 5 times quickly and a genie will appear. I'm kidding, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I have been so excited to be on this podcast. I cannot believe it gets to be today. And Nick, congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Please go to Amazon and support our lovely book. I'll put a link in the show notes. I'll also put a link of all of Kat's information in the show notes. And this is the Nick Speaks podcast, a podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nicolas Comstock, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.